Hello, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Excel. More specifically, we're going to be talking about data tables. Now, data tables are one of the more practical skills, something that I think most people could benefit from learning about. It's also one of those things which seems kind of intimidating. So what you're seeing right here is a completed data table, and I'm going to show you how I did this. Basically, what I've done here is I started off by examining what a mortgage payment would be on $250,000, 4.5% interest rate. This is basically a PMT function, which I'm not covering in this video. And that wasn't too difficult to set up, but you can see how much more useful it is to have a huge table. And you can look at the relationship between percentages and amounts. And that's a really nice thing to be able to do. I'll talk about it a bit more later. So basically it all starts with a PMT, and I actually, by using a data table, I have about 300 PMTs right here, which is a huge time saver. So let's head on over to the starting point. So basically, like I said, I'm not talking about the PMT function so much today, but if you're going to create a data table, it starts with the structure. So I've got these labels here, which I just made. I decided that I wanted to start at $150,000 and I wanted to go up in $10,000 increments. Here I decided to start at 2% and I went up by 0.5. So that's rule one, I guess, of a data table, is to kind of set up your axes. The major kind of tricky rule is that you must have a formula in the upper left-hand corner. So you can write a formula by scratch, but I always like to do this. I just use a cell reference. I just type an equals sign and point to a cell with a formula in it. I press enter, and now I've got a reference to that cell. This cell is the real full-blown PMT formula. Okay, so now once you've got the structure of your table, which in reality probably is the part that takes some time, which I've also done already. Once you've got the structure of the table, you're going to want to select the entire area, right? So, oops, I missed that last value. So I'm going to select the entire area of the table. So notice, make sure you get those labels. It's very important. Now, data tables are under the data tab, so I guess that's kind of easy to remember. The thing that's not so easy to remember is that it's under what if analysis, which is just where it is. I'm going to head over to data table, and this is a very simple dialog box. It's also cryptic. So it only takes two arguments. One is row input cell, one is column input cell. That doesn't really tell me anything. So how this works is, so row means, see this row right here? You've got to ask yourself, what is that row representing? This row is the amount. So what I need to do is point back to the amount in the original formula. Right? So this is quite simply just a reference to where the amount came from in the original formula. And the column here represents the APR. So I'm going to point to the APR, which is B3, and that's all there is to setting this up. Now, I could have put my percentages up here and my amounts down here. I could have put years here. So there's no just kind of cookie cutter recipe for this. You really actually have to look at the row, ask yourself, what does it represent? Look at the percent, or look at this column and ask, what does it represent? I press OK, and I get something like that. Now, one of the interesting things about data tables is they're kind of hard to check, so let me show you how I like to check it. Well, I know that this right here, 1266.71, I know that that represents 4.5% and $250,000. So I kind of just do this as a sanity check. I like to fill that cell in yellow or highlight it or whatever. And then I'm going to use my table, and I'm going to head over to $250,000, and I'm going to head down to 4.5%, which would be right here. And those values should match. Now notice they don't match perfectly. It's because I have rounded it, essentially, right? If I show enough decimal places, it looks exactly the same. But these data tables can get pretty huge, so I chopped off all the zeros. And that's basically how you check it. Many times in Excel, when you do something incorrectly, it's very obvious. It's not uncommon to get those rows and columns backwards, and if you do, typically these values aren't off by much more than a couple $100. So I like to just check the one value that I know, and if that one works, presumably probably the rest of them are good as well. Now, something I alluded to earlier, this is something that I think everyone should be able to do. This is a really valuable tool because Really, the year's probably relatively fixed, but imagine if you were going to buy a home or a car, some kind of a major purchase like that. You would go in and you would have a look at rates, and you would know that, for example, rates today would fall somewhere in this row, and then you could use this table to very quickly go through and figure out, depending on your budget for the month, what can I afford and what can't I afford. This is a chart which took me just a couple minutes to put together, or table, I guess, but it really allows you to see what you can and what you can't afford. Right? It's a lot better than just heading down to the whatever store and having them tell you what you can buy. So very practical, applicable to probably almost everybody out there. Did not take a lot of work, but it's kind of one of those things that a lot of people are scared of in my experience, and you certainly don't need to be. So now you know about 2 variable data tables. Thanks for watching.